My name is Threk'van, and I have been calling fights at the Voranti Combat Trials for 23 standard cycles. I have seen warriors rise. I have seen legends fall. I have witnessed moments that made entire species hold their breath, and I have narrated deaths so brutal that audiences across 12 systems had to look away from their screens. I thought, after all that time, that nothing could surprise me anymore. I was so spectacularly wrong. But I am getting ahead of myself here. Let me set the scene for you properly, because what happened in round 7 deserves context. It deserves build-up. Honestly, it deserves its own historical archive, but I will do my best with words. Station Kelvos 9 sits at the intersection of 4 major trade routes, which makes it neutral territory, which makes it perfect for events where species who normally want to kill each other can gather without starting interstellar incidents. Mostly, the Voranti Combat Trials have been held here for over 600 years, and in that time the arena has become something of a sacred space. Warriors dream of fighting on that floor. Young soldiers across the galaxy grow up watching highlights, memorizing the names of champions, practicing moves in their quarters while pretending the crowd is chanting for them. The arena itself, well, calling it impressive would be like calling a supernova slightly warm. The main floor spans nearly half a kilometer in diameter, surrounded by tiered seating that rises so high the upper levels need atmospheric containment fields. On tournament days, that seating fills with beings from every corner of civilized space. You get Belvakians sitting next to Kethari, Vrelians sharing drink vendors with Orcs mercenaries, species that have fought wars against each other, all suddenly united by their love of watching someone else bleed. 40,000 beings in attendance that day, another 3 billion watching across the broadcast network, all of them expecting the usual, which meant spectacular violence, dramatic upsets, and at least 1 or 2 deaths that would be replayed on highlight reels for years. The morning matches delivered exactly that. We had a Grenix warrior take down a favored Molthari champion in the 3rd round. Very exciting. A controversial disqualification in the 5th round when someone deployed prohibited nanotoxins. Very dramatic. Everything proceeding according to tradition. Everything meeting expectations. Then came round 7. And expectations, along with several reputations, went straight out the airlock. The announcement came through the arena speakers, and I remember glancing at my datapad to confirm I had heard correctly. Competitor Penny Kowalski, representing Earth, Sol system. A human. We do not get many humans at the Voranti Trials. They are relatively new to the Galactic stage, only been part of the broader community for about 40 years, and their reputation is, well, let us call it developing. Most species know them as traders, diplomats, occasionally scientists, not warriors, definitely not Voranti-level warriors. So when the gate opened and she walked onto the arena floor, I felt a small pulse of curiosity, followed almost immediately by pity. She was tiny. I do not mean that as an insult, I mean it as an objective observation. The average Voranti competitor stands somewhere between 7 and 12 feet tall depending on species. Penny Kowalski looked to be maybe 5.5 feet at most. Average human height, I learned later, but standing there among the other warriors waiting for their matches, she looked like someone's lost offspring who had wandered into the wrong section of the station. Her build was equally unremarkable. No visible augmentation, no cybernetic enhancement, no exoskeletal support frame, just a human, wearing simple combat attire that covered her torso and limbs, brown hair pulled back from her face, expression calm, almost bored. Then came the weapon declaration, and that is when things got genuinely confusing. The registration official, a Kethari named Vormund, approached her with the standard verification scanner. Every competitor must declare their weapons before a match. Standard procedure, no surprises allowed. She reached to her belt and produced, and I am not exaggerating here, a knife. A tiny knife. The blade could not have been longer than her hand span. Maybe 6 inches of metal. Simple handle. No energy enhancement, no molecular edge, no concealed mechanisms, just a knife, the kind of thing you might use to cut food. Vormund stared at it, then he looked at her, then he looked at the knife again. "Are you certain this is your declared weapon?" he asked. "Yes," she said. He scanned it, confirmed it was exactly what it appeared to be, ran the scan again just to be sure. "This is your only weapon," he clarified. "Yes," she said again. "You understand," he continued, speaking slowly like maybe she had a translation error, that your first opponent is Gorrund the Crusher, Belvakian, 9 feet tall, 4 arms, carries a hammer that weighs more than you do. She nodded. He asked one more time if she was serious. She confirmed that she was. Around me the crowd started murmuring. Some of it was confusion. A fair amount of it was open laughter. I saw several bookmakers waving off customers refusing to take bets, because what would be the point? Nobody was going to bet on her surviving long enough to matter. Privately, I remember thinking that the humans must have sent a sacrifice, some kind of political gesture maybe, or a cultural ritual I did not understand. Send someone to die nobly, earn respect through loss, that sort of thing. 40,000 beings in that arena, 3 billion watching from home, and I would wager that not a single one of us, not one, thought we were about to witness what came next. Gorrund the Crusher entered the arena floor like he owned it, which to be fair he kind of did. Old Belvakian had won his last 14 matches at the Voranti Trials, and every single one of them had ended with his opponent either dead or begging for mercy. His species evolved on a high-gravity world with a toxic atmosphere and predators that make nightmares look cuddly. Their skin is essentially living rock, hard to cut, nearly impossible to pierce, and they have 4 arms because apparently 2 just was not enough to ruin someone's day. He stood 9 feet tall, shoulders wide enough to block a corridor, carrying a battle hammer that I am fairly certain weighed more than most adult humans. The thing was a masterwork of brutality, reinforced shaft, head forged from compressed asteroid core, energy channels running through it that made it glow faintly with every swing. When he saw his opponent, he stopped walking. Then he started laughing. Not chuckling. Not a polite snort of amusement. Full-on bellowing laughter that echoed through the entire arena. He laughed so hard he nearly dropped the hammer. Several of his 4 hands clutched at his midsection as his body shook with genuine, uncontrollable hilarity. The crowd joined in, 40,000 beings all sharing the joke, because what else could you do? It was absurd. It was ridiculous. It was like watching someone bring a small stick to fight a starship. Penny Kowalski stood there through all of it, did not react, did not respond, just waited. Her expression never changed from that calm, almost bored look she had worn since walking in. The match tone sounded. Gorrund charged. Now I have called hundreds of fights, and I have seen Belvakians move before. They are not slow despite their size. That hammer came around in an arc that would have pulverized stone, aimed directly at the spot where Penny was standing, expected to end this joke in one swing, exactly as everyone anticipated. She was not there. I barely tracked her movement. One moment she stood in the hammer's path, the next she was under his guard, inside his reach, close enough to touch his torso. My visual processors actually lagged trying to follow her trajectory. I had to review the footage later to understand what I had just witnessed. 3 cuts. That is all she made. 3 precise surgical strikes with that tiny knife of hers, not to his chest, not to his arms, not anywhere his stone-like hide would have protected him. She cut the tendons behind his knees, both legs, 3 cuts total, placed exactly where Belvakian anatomy keeps the connective tissue that allows them to stand upright. Gorrund the Crusher, winner of 14 consecutive matches, collapsed like a demolished building. He hit the arena floor so hard I felt the vibration through my commentary booth. The hammer flew from his grip, bounced twice and skidded to a stop 10 meters away. He tried to rise, his 4 arms pushing against the ground, but his legs would not cooperate. They simply would not work. Penny stepped back. She did not advance, did not press the attack, did not move to finish him. She just stepped back, knife held loosely at her side, and waited, giving him the opportunity to yield, giving him the choice. The arena fell completely silent. I mean, completely, 40,000 beings, and not a single sound. No murmuring, no gasps, no commentary from my fellow announcers. 3 full seconds of absolute nothing while everyone tried to process what had just happened. Then Gorrund, still on the ground, still unable to rise, raised one of his 4 hands in the universal gesture of surrender. The arena erupted, and I, sitting in my booth with my notes and my datapad and my 23 years of experience, realized I needed to pay much closer attention to what was happening in round 7. 3 more matches, that is what stood between Penny Kowalski and the championship round. 3 more opponents, each one selected specifically because they were larger, meaner, and more confident than the last. The tournament organizers were not happy about Gorrund. A Belvakian losing to a human with a tiny knife was not the narrative they wanted broadcast across 12 systems. So they did what tournament organizers always do when someone disrupts their plans. They tried to correct the situation. Her second opponent was a Vrelian, named Kha'Zix. Now if you have never encountered a Vrelian, let me paint you a picture. They evolved on a swamp world where everything is either venomous, carnivorous, or both. Their bodies are covered in spines that secrete a paralytic toxin capable of dropping a Belvakian in 30 seconds. They do not need weapons because they are weapons. Head to tail, every inch of them designed to kill. Kha'Zix entered the arena, flexing those spines, making them rattle, putting on a show. He had reviewed the footage of her first match, and he was convinced the key was not letting her get close. Keep her at range, let the spines do the work. Simple strategy. The match lasted 2 minutes. She got close.
Of course, she got close.
Kha'Zix threw everything he had at her. Spine volleys, sweeping attacks, defensive formations, and she moved through all of it like she was walking through light rain. Methodical, patient, never rushed, never panicked, just taking him apart piece by piece until he could not fight anymore. The crowd did not laugh this time. They watched in confused silence. Her third opponent was a Kethari duelist, named Sorval. The Kethari are known across the galaxy for their blade work. They train from birth, literally birth. Their infants are given practice weapons before they can walk. Sorval carried twin plasma blades that could cut through ship hulls, and his record showed 212 victories in formal dueling competitions. He approached the match with respect.
I will give him that.
He had clearly studied her movements, analyzed her technique, prepared counters for everything he had seen her do. Professional, thorough. It did not matter. She made him look like a student. Not a bad student, mind you, but a student nonetheless. Every attack he launched, she redirected. Every defense he mounted, she circumvented. His plasma blades, those magnificent weapons that had won him 212 fights, never once touched her. When he finally yielded, 3 minutes and 40 seconds into the match, he bowed to her. Deep and formal. The Kethari do not bow to anyone. They do not consider a master. Now the crowd was murmuring differently. Not confusion anymore. Something closer to fascination. And underneath that, if you listened carefully, the first hints of fear. Her fourth opponent was supposed to settle things. Brennix, a Horrocks mercenary with 37 confirmed arena kills and a reputation for brutality that made other Horrocks uncomfortable. His species communicates primarily through violence, and Brennix was considered exceptionally eloquent. He had never lost a match. He had never even been injured in a match. Organizers brought him in specifically to end this anomaly. The match lasted 11 seconds. I am not exaggerating. I have the timestamp logs. 11 seconds from the opening tone to Brennix on the ground with her knife at his throat, all 4 of his weapons scattered across the arena floor, his face showing an expression I had never seen on a Horrocks before. Fear, pure, undiluted fear. The crowd went insane, not cheering exactly, more like collective shock expressing itself through noise, 40,000 beings all making sounds at once because they did not know what else to do with the emotions they were experiencing. I found myself standing in my booth, did not remember getting up. My notes were scattered everywhere because I had knocked them aside at some point. My colleague Vrentis, who had been calling fights even longer than me, grabbed my arm and asked me a question I could not answer. "What do humans eat to move like that?" he demanded. I had no idea. I still have no idea. What I did know was that I had stopped thinking of her as the human with the tiny knife. Somewhere during those 4 matches she had become something else in my mind. A title that felt appropriate given what I was witnessing. The Small Blade. And she was not done yet. The announcement hit the arena like a thunderclap. Final match. Championship round. Defending champion Moreth Vel versus challenger Penny Kowalski. Moreth Vel, 6 consecutive years as Voranti champion. 34 championship victories. 0 defeats. 0 draws, 0 instances of yielding to anyone for any reason. His species, the Velthari, are engineered for combat at a genetic level, bred over thousands of generations to be the perfect warriors. They do not know fear. They do not experience doubt. They simply win. He entered the arena floor and I swear the temperature dropped 3 degrees. Massive does not begin to describe him. 8 feet of pure killing power, wrapped in ceremonial armor that had been forged according to legend in the heart of a dying star. The metal shifted colors as he moved, deep purples and burning golds, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. He carried a blade in each of his 3 hands, each weapon large enough to qualify as a human greatsword, each one humming with barely contained energy. Everything Penny Kowalski was not, that is what Morith Vel represented. Size, power, reputation, equipment, all of it dialed to maximum, all of it designed to end fights before they began. The arena fell silent as they faced each other. Championship protocol allows the defending champion to address the challenger, and Morath took that opportunity. His voice resonated through the space, deep and formal, carrying the weight of 6 years of dominance. "You have fought well, human," he said. "Your victories bring honor to your species. But this," he gestured at the arena around them, "this is where your path ends. Withdraw now and you leave with glory. Continue and you will be carried out. The choice is yours." 40,000 beings waited for her response, 3 billion more watching from home, everyone expecting her to recognize the obvious, to accept the gracious offer, to walk away with her dignity intact. Penny Kowalski looked at the champion, looked at his armor, his weapons, his massive frame, everything that made him undefeated for 6 years. She gave a slight smile. Then she shrugged. The match tone sounded. Morith Vel unleashed everything he had. I mean everything. 6 years of championship-level techniques, moves that had killed dozens of opponents, combinations that had never been successfully defended against, all of it directed at one small human with a tiny knife. She was not there for any of it. I watched her move and I finally understood something I had been missing.
She was not just fast, though she was unbelievably fast. She was reading him.
Every attack, every feint, every subtle shift in his weight, she processed it and responded before the action completed. Like water flowing through rocks, finding every gap, never resisting directly, just moving. Morath swung his blades in patterns that would have overwhelmed anyone else. She slipped between them. He tried to corner her, cut off her escape routes, force her into a position where speed would not matter. She made new routes, found angles that should not have existed, turned his advantages into obstacles he had to navigate around. And that is when I realized what I was actually watching. She was not just fighting him. She was teaching. Every dodge, every redirect, every moment she chose not to attack. She was showing the entire galaxy what human adaptability actually looked like in practice. This was a demonstration, a lesson written in movement and survival, and patience. She let it continue for almost 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the greatest warrior in 12 systems throwing everything he had at a human who simply refused to be where his weapons were going. 4 minutes of education. Then she stopped defending. The transition was instant. One moment she was flowing around his attacks. The next she was inside his guard, her knife moving with purpose. That armor of his, forged in dying stars, legendary protection, it meant nothing. Every suit of armor has gaps, joints, seams, places where mobility requires sacrifice. She found all of them. First strike to his forward knee joint, compromising his base. Second strike to the inner elbow of his primary arm, loosening his grip. Third strike to the nerve cluster where his neck met his shoulder, sending pain cascading through his system. Each cut precise, surgical, exactly enough damage to diminish him without destroying him. His blades dropped one by one. His stance faltered. The undefeated champion, the perfect warrior brought to his knees by a human with a knife no longer than her hand. She stood in front of him, blade resting against his throat, and waited. The arena held its breath. 6 years since anyone had seen Morith Vel in this position. 6 years since anyone had even come close. He spoke one word that 40,000 beings heard in person and 3 billion more heard through their screens. One word that would be replayed and analyzed and discussed for years to come. Yield. The arena erupted. I have heard crowds cheer before. I have called championship victories that shook the foundations of Station Kelvos 9. But this was something beyond anything in my 23 years of experience. 40,000 beings all releasing sound at once. Shock and disbelief and awe all mixing together into a wall of noise so intense I could barely hear myself think. Penny Kowalski, the new Voranti champion, stood in the center of that chaos with the same calm expression she had worn since walking onto the arena floor. She accepted the championship acknowledgement with a simple nod. No celebration, no fist pumping, no triumphant roar, just a nod, like she had expected this outcome from the beginning. I secured an interview, pulled every favor I had accumulated over 2 decades, pushed through the crowds, got myself in front of her before she disappeared into the post-match procedures. One question. That is all I wanted answered. One question that I knew 3 billion viewers were desperate to understand. How? I asked. How did you do this with that knife? It is so small. She looked at me. Really looked. And for the first time I saw something shift in her expression. Not offense. Not amusement. Something closer to patience. The kind of patience a teacher shows when a student asks a question that reveals they have been thinking about the problem incorrectly. The knife is not small, she said. It is exactly the size it needs to be. Humans learned a long time ago that precision beats power. Every time. She paused, considering her next words. Our homeworld Earth, she continued. Everything there is trying to kill you. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the bacteria. We did not survive by being the biggest or the strongest. We survived by being efficient, by finding the exact point where a small amount of force, applied correctly, accomplishes what brute strength cannot. She held up the knife, that tiny blade that had just defeated the greatest warrior in 12 systems. This is not a limitation, she said. This is refinement. And standing there, looking at that weapon, I finally understood what had happened. We had laughed at her. 40,000 beings in the arena, 3 billion watching from home, all of us laughing at that small blade, but we were not laughing at her. We were laughing at our own ignorance. The humans have been part of galactic civilization for 40 years and we have been underestimating them the entire time. We looked at their size, their strength, their technology, and we measured them against our own standards. We never considered that they might be operating by completely different rules. Better rules. That is going to change now. After today, after what Penny Kowalski showed us in round 7, the galaxy will never look at humans the same way again. So let me leave you with this. My friends, across the 12 systems, a warning, from someone who has spent 23 years watching warriors fight and die. If a human ever draws a small blade on you, that is not the time to laugh. That is the time to run.